I always thought that Netflix was crazy not to get into live sports sooner than they did. Those guys truly have a global footprint. I think they're late to the game, but it was a big success.
The performance of the broadcast, did that give you pause to do business with Netflix at all?
I didn't think the event was a great event, but they needed to do that. They knew Mike Tyson was going to bring in big...
When I do this, but Mike's 60, man. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Who gives a shit what I think? It's not my fight. I love Mike Tyson, personally as a friend, and he's one of my favorite athletes of all time.
People that are, there's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time.
And I always thought that Netflix was crazy not to get into live sports sooner than they did. Those guys truly have a global footprint. I think they're late to the game, but it was a big success. The performance of the broadcast did that give you pause to do business with Netflix at all? I didn't think the event was a great event, but they needed to do that. They knew Mike Tyson was going to bring in big numbers. Dana White has finally spoken, and his words cut deeper than any punch ever thrown in the ring. You could see it, disappointment etched across his face, fury blazing in his eyes. He gets mad when I do this, but Mike 60, man, I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Who gives a? What I think? It's not my fight. I love Mike Tyson, personally as a friend, and he's one of my favorite athletes of all time. Why? Because he just watched boxing's reputation get trashed by none other than a living legend and a self-proclaimed problem child. That's right, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul didn't just embarrass themselves, they set fire to the integrity of an entire sport to destroy something legendary. It only takes two forces working in opposite directions, and Tyson and Jake proved they were up to the task. I mean, all the people that are there's a lot of in Porto went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time. All those hype-filled training videos, all the trash talk and fake threats. Turns out it was just as fake as the fight itself, hollow rehearsed, and a slap in the face to every fan who dared to believe in them. How are we, the fans, ever supposed to trust a boxing match again? Put together training camp and come in, and I don't like to see guys fighting at a 31-year age difference during that fight. Just you guys know what I think of that stuff. A leaked footage has emerged showing Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Yes, that Mike Tyson, the boxing legend, and Jake Paul, the loudest YouTuber to ever lace up gloves, allegedly rehearsing for a scripted fight, not sparring, not strategizing, straight up practicing like they auditioning for some community theater production called How to Scam Your Fans in 10 Rounds or Less. And let's talk about betrayal, shall we? Fans didn't pay to see a dress rehearsal. They paid handsomely, by the way, for what they thought was a genuine clash of skill and legacy. Instead they got what now looks like a pre-planned choreography routine. This wasn't boxing, it was boxing cosplay, and the fans, the people who bought tickets, pay-per-view streams, and overpriced merch, they've been played, and it was a bit of a show. But what did you expect? Seriously, when you stay at home and you turned on Netflix that night, we like, holy, I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time. Let's not pretend this disaster didn't come with a hefty payday. Tyson reportedly cashed in a cool $20 million for this so-called fight. Jake Paul somewhere between the $40 million millions. Folks, for what exactly? A performance that would make pro wrestling blush with embarrassment. There's a lot of in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time, and Dana White, the UFC boss, took one look at this mess and decided to torch it from orbit. White called it a circus act, which frankly is an insult to circuses. At least clowns are upfront about what they're doing. This was a spit in the face of every real fighter who's ever bled broken bones or risked it all for their sport. White wasn't just mad, he was livid, calling out the entire spectacle as a stain on the already struggling reputation of boxing. My biggest problem with the Jake Paul thing is, and how this plays out, is when he actually fought somebody who was a boxer who had the same type of record he has, who is his age, Tommy, and who is his size. He lost. And yes, an actual fight script leaked online before the event. The details weren't vague either, it spelled out every move like some bizarre screenplay. Tyson's aggressive opening scripted, Jake Paul's cautious strategy scripted, the fifth round drama where someone almost gets knocked out completely scripted. When the fight happened, it played out so perfectly to the leaked blueprint that it felt like watching a spoiler-filled trailer for a movie you didn't even want to see. Well, X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on X. A few, the fight itself a joke. Tyson, who once struck fear into the hearts of opponents, looked like he was going through the motions. Sure, his bob and weave was there. But the intensity, the fire gone, and Jake Paul, his movements mirrored the script so precisely it was almost painful to watch. Fans didn't witness boxing, they watched a sad parody of it wrapped in glitz and hype. It wasn't a fight, it was a live-action scam, and guess what? People paid millions to see it. Open the bell rings. Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, which actually happened as soon as the bell went. Mike Tyson came out with that head movement, pushing forward immediately. He stalks forward with his signature bob and wave style. Dana White wasn't done dragging this travesty either. He didn't just call it a joke, he slammed Jake Paul's entire career. White pointed out the obvious: Paul keeps picking fights with guys who are either way past their prime or have no business in a boxing ring. It's like Paul's personal matchmaking strategy is to find the oldest, slowest opponents and then act surprised when he wins. White's frustration boiled over as he called out Paul's unwillingness to face real fighters, the ones who've spent their lives mastering the sport under any circumstances. Almost 60-year-old man shouldn't be fighting a 27-year-old guy, even if it's Mike Tyson. So my biggest problem with the Jake Paul thing is, and how this plays out, is when he actually fought somebody who was a boxer who had the same type of record he has, who is his age, Tommy, and who is his size. He lost every jab, every dodge, every dramatic moment of the fight, completely choreographed like it was some second-rate drama. Imagine being Dana White running the UFC, where fighters sacrifice everything for a shot at glory, only to see Jake Paul and Mike Tyson pull off this embarrassment. White didn't sugarcoat it. This wasn't boxing, it was theater, and bad theater at that. I mean, all the people that are there's a lot of in Porto went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time, and Jake Paul, let's just say Dana had the thoughts. He roasted Paul for dodging real opponents and instead cherry-picking legends way past their expiration date. He basically shouted, exposing Paul's whole shtick as a calculated scam to pad his ego without taking real risks. What do I think of the Mike Tyson fight? Yes, Tyson's 58 years old, you know what I mean. Jake fought a guy who was his age and was also considered a boxer, and he lost. And Tyson, well, let's not pretend White had sympathy for a legend selling out his name for an easy $20 million payday. The anger wasn't just about this one fight for White, this was a warning. Boxing is being hijacked by influencers who think fake punches and stage drama equal skill. This wasn't a competition, it was a cheap stunt to sell tickets, and honestly, who can disagree? Tyson and Paul just put on a show, and not the kind anyone wanted to see. So if you can keep 50-something-year-olds, you don't think Tyson has a chance and making a live in that? I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody. Now here's the part that stings the most: fans paid for this nonsense. They shelled out their hard earned cash expecting to witness an iconic clash of eras, a real test of grit and skill. Instead, they got a glorified sparring session wrapped in the facade of a competitive fight. The event pulled in massive pay-per-view sales because, let's face it, people love a spectacle. The Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. Interesting script. How so? What do you mean by script? Weird. Just like scripted in what way? No, I don't know. I actually really like Jake Paul, and Tyson didn't even need the money. He's got his thriving cannabis empire, a mountain of endorsement deals and royalties from a career that already solidified his place in history. So why stoop to this level? It's not like he was short on options. The guy could have spent his time doing literally anything else, but no, he chose to put his name on what's now being branded as one of the biggest jokes in boxing history. Mike Tyson's just being beat off Jake Paul, but how? Mike Tyson's an absolute legend and one of the greatest fighters of all time. How can this YouTuber beat such a great fighter? As for Jake Paul, let's not pretend this was ever about the sport. This wasn't about proving himself as a boxer, it was about adding another clickbait headline to his resume. Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson practically writes itself, and you better believe he's plastering that on every social media platform known to man. Never mind that Tyson is nearly 3 decades older and well past his prime. Jake's strategy is simple: cherry-pick opponents who look good on paper but pose no real threat in the ring. I mean, all the people that are there's a lot of in Porto went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time, and I mean, if you didn't think that that's the way to fight, I don't know what people expected and who paid the ultimate price for this circus. The fans, of course, they tuned in hoping to witness something memorable, something historic. Instead, they got an emotional slap in the face. This wasn't boxing, it was a soap opera. With gloves the betrayal was palpable. Fans expected authenticity and were handed a pre-rehearsed scam. The whole event was dripping with the kind of hollow theatrics you expect from a bad reality show. If he wants to do boxing, why not fight guys that actually box for a living? 100% fight guys that box for living and guys that are your age. How about that? He says he want